Hello, everyone. If you've watched some of my more recent videos, you've heard me ramble on about a lot of metaphysical, esoteric, even spiritual matters. And I feel like people don't talk about those things enough outside of the traditional realm of old school religious ideas. Well, I've had some gripes with a common trend among our top scientific minds in this day and age. And Lawrence Krauss, who is an American-Canadian theoretical physicist and cosmologist, while being interviewed by Jordan Peterson, perfectly demonstrates this flaw and this trend. In my opinion, it's a flaw, or should we say a limitation, in the conceptualization of our reality by most current day scientists. And I'm going to play a little bit of that interview by Jordan Peterson, where Lawrence Krauss says something that just really backs up everything I've been saying for quite a little while now. I'm going to go ahead and play that for you guys. Pay close attention because this is bang on.
And again, I would argue. See, to me, I'm a solid empiricist. If there's not an empirical way of defining why it's better, then it's an irrelevant concept, and that's why I'm a very pedestrian kind of guy. If you can't measure it, don't talk about it to some extent.
Huh. So yeah, if you can't measure it, don't talk about it. Oh, and it's hilarious that like when he's saying it, he kind of chuckles because I think he even realizes that he is exposing his own limitations. And don't get it twisted. It is absolutely a limitation to not ponder or speculate or try to conceptualize anything that can't be measured using the current scientific methods. Why is that a limitation? Well, I mean, even the language he had to use to say that suggests a limitation. If you can't measure it, don't talk about it. That's a restraint. It's a limitation. I think we should be willing to talk about everything, and I think we should be willing to explore everything, even concepts that you can't measure using the scientific method, sir. Yeah, boom. This is exactly what I've been talking about for a little while now. And why is it important that we should be allowed, and even it's probably beneficial to go down these really difficult roads into the metaphysical, or dare I say it, spiritual, philosophy, and so on and so forth? Well, because it helps us define our lives with meaning, which is something Jordan Peterson talks about all the time. If you guys don't listen to Jordan Peterson, you're missing out, like, big time. But more than that, there's so much that's so ubiquitous in our entire lives that can't be defined or measured or studied using the empirical. You can't get empirical data on consciousness, for example. I mean, very little, if any. We can't use a scientific method to study what's going through our minds. Like, you can't shove a microscope into our brains and see the images that we see when we're imagining a superhero movie, or I mean, there's so many concepts that are absolutely fundamental that are happening all around us that, yeah, okay, if you don't care to know or speculate on them or try to understand, maybe that's fine with you, I mean, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong if you're happy with just the sort of atheistic meat and potatoes. This is what we can study. This is what we can get empirical data on. That's good enough for me. I'm happy. I'm done. Boom. don't worry about anything else. I don't think there's necessarily wrong with that way of thinking if it works for you, if it makes you happy. But unfortunately, people who think that way oftentimes belittle, shame, and gaslight people who try to go a step further into the unknown realms of esoteric, spiritual, metaphysical concepts that can't currently be studied or measured by any scientific method that we have so far. So that's kind of one of my big problems with scientific types in this age, is that they're so ready to rebuke and stifle out any dialogue about things that go outside of what can be measured, as Sir Lawrence, what the hell's his name again? Lawrence Krauss said here. And don't get me wrong, I like Lawrence Krauss. Like, he's a brilliant guy. And I am extremely grateful for him and all the other scientists who have helped us get a better understanding of how things work, the processes that molecules and atoms and protons and stuff that they go through, and the sequence of events that create the phenomena that are all around us. But they are phenomena. They are worthy of awe and reverence, you know? Because, like, at the end of the day, you can dissect the processes of all these different scientific things that are going on all around us. You can be like, well, why does that friction create a flame? Well, because it's the electrons are moving so rapidly and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, why? Why? You keep going down and down and down and down and down until, you get down to like the Big Bang, the start of time. You're like, oh, well, you had matter and antimatter that were completely locked at the same amount until one day matter got the slight upper hand and then everything exploded into being. And it's like, yeah, but why? Why is that the way any of it works in the first place? Well, scientists will just go, well, it just does. That's the limitation of science. Philosophy and spirituality is what helps you go further than that. And I think that, man, if we get one life to live, it's just the way that I'm built. I don't like limitations on thought. I don't like limitations on imagination. And this reality, no matter what any scientist tells you, has limitless potential for conceptualization. All right. Faithful Slave, I'm out.